Have you ever wondered how from the wildlands along the Atlantic coast, small communities of European immigrants could build the world's most powerful superpower in just a few centuries? The origin story of the United States is not only the history of the 13 colonies, but also the arduous journey of people who dared to dream, dare to do and dare to challenge the most powerful empire at that time, the United Kingdom. In the early 17th century, Europeans set foot on the land of the New World with the hope of finding new opportunities. They came from many different countries, but the most prominent were the British. Each small village, each coastal town gradually took shape, and then 13 British colonies sprang up along the northeast coast of America. Initially, the people here only wanted to live in peace, exploit fertile land and enjoy a freer life than in suffocating Europe. However, conflicts arose as Great Britain imposed increasingly harsh taxes and laws on the colonies. The people began to ask, why should we pay taxes to a country across the ocean when we have no representation in their parliament? This question became the spark for the independence movement. Events such as the Boston Tea Party in 1773, when the colonists protested by throwing British goods into the sea, became symbols of the spirit of resistance. And then, on July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was published, affirming human rights to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. A new nation, the United States of America, was officially born. Of course, the road to freedom was not paved with roses. The bloody 8-year War of Independence tested the will of the young American people. But with the spirit of solidarity, along with the talented leadership of figures like George Washington, they did what seemed impossible, defeating the mighty British Empire. The birth of the United States not only marked the appearance of a new country on the world map, but also initiated a new political order, where power was no longer concentrated in the hands of kings, but belonged to the people. That was the foundation for the United States from 13 small colonies, to gradually rise to become the #1 power in the world later. Did you know that the U.S. economy accounts for nearly a quarter of global GDP? And every fluctuation on Wall Street can shake the world's financial markets? It is no coincidence that the U.S. is called the economic locomotive of humanity. The history of U.S. economic development is a journey combining the spirit of exploration, constant creativity and outstanding adaptability to all challenges. As early as the 19th century, when many European countries were still immersed in war, the U.S. entered a period of strong industrialization. The vast fields in the Midwest provided food for the whole world, while factories in the North continuously produced steel, coal, and machinery. The railway system stretching from the East Coast to the West Coast turned the U.S. into a giant unified market, promoting trade and moving goods faster than ever before. In the 20th century, the U.S. officially rose to the position of economic superpower. After World War II, while many European economies were devastated, the United States emerged as the center of global manufacturing and trade. The U.S. dollar became the international reserve currency, and American corporations such as Ford, General Electric, or Coca-Cola spread their influence across the planet. Today, the U.S. economy is not only based on traditional industry or agriculture, but also the cradle of innovation. Silicon Valley has created technology giants such as Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, companies that not only shape the daily lives of billions of people, but also dominate the way the global economy operates. Another important factor is the soft power of the dollar. Because it is used in most international transactions, the U.S. has a huge advantage in raising capital, controlling financial flows, and influencing other countries through monetary policy. Therefore, any fluctuations of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Fed, make the whole world watch. However, behind the halo, the U.S. economy also faces many challenges: increasing inequality, huge public debt, fierce competition from China and many emerging economies. However, with its creativity, global talent attraction and huge financial system, the U.S. still maintains its position as the beacon of the world economy. Simply put, when the U.S. sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. This famous saying still holds true today. And perhaps, in the near future, no economy is strong enough to replace the U.S. at the top of the global economy. If the economy is the heart, Then the military is the steel arm that has helped the US reach out to the world. It is no coincidence that whenever military power is mentioned, the world immediately thinks of the US, the country with the largest defense budget, the most advanced weapons technology, and a network of bases spread across the planet. Immediately after World War II, the US not only won but also affirmed its role as a leader in the new international order. With the birth of NATO in 1949, the US became the main pillar in protecting Western Europe from the threat from the Soviet Union. Strategic bombers, giant aircraft carriers, and a terrifying nuclear arsenal made the US an irreplaceable counterweight in the Cold War. Today, US military power lies not only in scale, but also in its ability to deploy globally, with more than 750 military bases in more than 80 countries and territories. The US can send its forces to any hotspot in just a few hours. Mobile aircraft carrier groups, likened to floating cities with full combat systems, can approach any coast and demonstrate their power, making opponents wary. In addition, the US military is also famous for its high-tech weapons systems, from stealth fighters F-22, F-35, stealth bomber B-2, to surveillance satellite systems and cyber warfare. Not only dominating on land, in the air and at sea, the US is also at the forefront of the military race in outer space, with missile defense programs and military satellites. But what makes the US different is not just hard power. It is also military alliances and global partnerships. The US maintains security treaties with Japan, South Korea, Australia, commits to protecting NATO, and participates in many international campaigns from the Middle East to Africa. That influence helps the US play the role of world policeman, both controversial and affirming soft power along with hard power. However, maintaining a huge army is also a big burden. The US defense budget currently accounts for about 40% of total global military spending, causing many internal debates about prioritizing defense or social welfare. In addition, long-term wars such as those in Iraq and Afghanistan have left many expensive lessons about the cost of blood, money, and people's trust. However, it is difficult to deny, the US military is the sharpest tool of power that this country possesses. Its superior strength, global network, and adaptability make the US still the #1 military power, and in the coming decades, it will be very difficult for anyone to replace that position. A single frown on Wall Street is enough to shake the global market. Wall Street, a street less than a kilometer long in Manhattan, New York, has become a symbol of financial power, where the fate of thousands of businesses and even the world economy is decided. The origin of the name, Wall Street, began in the 17th century, when the Dutch built a wooden wall to protect the settlement of New Amsterdam from the threat of attack. Over time, this place became a bustling trading center, and then gradually formed the first stock market in the United States. In 1792, 24 brokers signed the Buttonwood Treaty under a tree on this street, laying the foundation for the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, the largest securities organization on the planet today. The power of Wall Street comes from the fact that it is not just a market for buying and selling stocks, but a place to mobilize global capital. A startup in California or a technology corporation in China all dream of being listed on the NYSE or NASDAQ. Because just by appearing on the flashing electronic board of Wall Street, that business immediately enters the biggest playground, accessing huge capital and global attention. The ups and downs of Wall Street have changed the world's economic history many times. The Great Depression of 1929 began with the collapse of the stock market here, leading to many years of global recession, or the financial crisis in 2008, originating from the US real estate bubble, caused a series of large banks on Wall Street to falter, shaking the international financial system. Therefore, every decision of the US Federal Reserve, Fed, every fluctuation of the Dow Jones or NASDAQ indexes becomes hot news that the whole world has to follow every hour. But Wall Street is not just about cold numbers. It also reflects the deep contradictions in American society, between the super rich who benefit from financial investments and ordinary workers who have little chance to reach the benefits of the stock market. The Occupy Wall Street movement in 2011 erupted right in nearby Zuccotti Square. as a protest against the injustice and bottomless greed of the tycoons. However, it cannot be denied that Wall Street is still the heart of global finance. It coordinates capital flows, connects businesses with investors, and creates growth opportunities for the US and world economies. Each bright light on New York's financial street not only illuminates the Manhattan sky, but also shines on millions of investors, businesses and governments around the planet. In other words, if Washington, D.C. is the center of political power, then Wall Street is the center of economic power, where the heartbeat of world finance still beats every day. What helped a young nation, just freed from colonial shackles, stand firm and become a model of democracy for the world? The answer lies in a document of only a few thousand words, the U.S. Constitution. A sustainable institutional blueprint that has survived for more than 230 years and still proves its strong vitality to this day. After gaining independence, the United States faced a great challenge: how to maintain the unity of 13 states with different interests, cultures and traditions. The original Articles of Confederation proved too weak to govern the country. It was in this context that the Constitutional Convention in 1787 in Philadelphia gave birth to the U.S. Constitution, a document that laid the foundation for the entire modern political system of this country. The U.S. Constitution stands out in that it establishes a mechanism for the separation of powers and restraint of power. The three branches of government, legislative, executive and judicial, are designed to check each other, avoiding dictatorship or abuse of power. The president has great power, but Congress can restrain it through laws and budgets, while the Supreme Court can declare a law or decree unconstitutional. It is this checks and balances mechanism that has become the foundation that has kept American democracy stable for generations. Not only stopping at the power structure, the U.S. Constitution is also supplemented by the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, ensuring the basic rights of citizens: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to a fair trial. These are the values that the American people always respect and are ready to fight to protect. The strength of the U.S. Constitution is not only in its content, but also in its flexible adaptability. With more than 27 amendments passed over more than 2 centuries, this document has maintained its core stability while also being able to change to suit historical turning points, from abolishing slavery, granting women the right to vote, to adjusting presidential term limits. Thanks to this institutional foundation, the United States has built a political system that many other countries admire. Despite experiencing civil war, economic crisis, and political division, the country has maintained democratic order and continuously developed. It is no exaggeration to say that the Constitution is the backbone of the United States of America, a social contract that transformed the disparate colonies into a unified nation, and then made that country the leading power in the world. If Wall Street is the heart of global finance, then Silicon Valley is the technological brain of the modern world. Located in the south of San Francisco Bay, California, this land of only a few dozen square miles has produced giant technology corporations, changing the way people live, work and connect with each other. The name, Silicon Valley, originated in the 1950s, when it became a center for the production of semiconductor chips, the core components in electronic devices. Over the decades, this small valley has transformed from an agricultural land into the cradle of technological innovation, where every bold idea has a chance to become reality. When mentioning Silicon Valley, we cannot ignore the legendary names: Apple, Google, Facebook, Intel, Tesla, Netflix. This is where Steve Jobs started his business in a garage, where Mark Zuckerberg turned a student social network into a platform connecting billions of people, or where Elon Musk cherished his dream of conquering space with SpaceX. Each major technology company in Silicon Valley is not only a business, but also a future shaper of all humanity. What makes this land special? It is the unique startup ecosystem. Thousands of startups coexist, compete and cooperate in a space of constant innovation. In addition, the presence of prestigious universities such as Stanford and UC Berkeley has provided high-quality human resources and pioneering research. The venture capital system also plays an indispensable role, ready to pour millions, even billions of dollars into potential ideas. Silicon Valley not only produces technology, but also creates a new culture, startup culture. Here, failure is not the end, but a valuable lesson. Fail fast, learn faster, is the unwritten slogan, encouraging people to think big and experiment boldly. The impact of Silicon Valley goes far beyond the borders of the United States. The products and services born here have penetrated every corner of global life, from the smartphone you hold in your hand, the app you use to call a car, to the online platform you watch movies every night. That is why people still call this place the factory of the future. However, Silicon Valley also faces many challenges. The cost of living is too high, fierce competition, and controversies about data privacy and technology monopoly. However, until now, no land in the world can replace its special role. It can be said that Silicon Valley is the place where the dream of technology comes true. And from here, the world enters a new era, the digital era. Perhaps no place in the world has had such a powerful impact on the imagination of billions of people as Hollywood. With just a few shots and a few iconic characters, the American film industry has turned Hollywood into a dream machine. A place that produces stories that transcend borders, languages, and cultures. Hollywood began in the early 20th century, when filmmakers came to Southern California to take advantage of the mild climate, diverse landscapes, and distance from the New York courthouse, where companies holding patents on movie cameras exerted pressure. From small film studios, Hollywood quickly developed into the largest film center in the world, producing thousands of films each year. During the golden age of the 1930s and 1950s, Hollywood was a giant entertainment machine. Film studios such as MGM, Paramount, Warner Bros. Universal dominated the screen with superstars such as Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe, or Humphrey Bogart. Movies are not only entertainment, but also a tool to spread the image of America. From lifestyle, fashion to liberal values, Hollywood's strength lies in its ability to tell global stories. A blockbuster like Titanic, Avatar, or Avengers can attract audiences from New York to Tokyo, from Paris to Buenos Aires. Cinematography, music, and acting blend into a visual feast that anyone, regardless of language, can still feel. Hollywood not only creates entertainment masterpieces, but also promotes the revolution in film technology. From color filming techniques, special effects, to advanced CGI technology, most of them originate here. This industry also creates millions of jobs and contributes billions of dollars to the U.S. economy. However, Hollywood is also a place that contains many controversies, from abuse of power, sexism, to scandals among celebrities. Movements like #MeToo have exposed the dark side of the cinema paradise, revealing the complexity behind the glittering lights. However, it is difficult to deny that Hollywood is the cradle of global popular culture. From cinematic icons like Superman, James Bond, to blockbuster series like Star Wars or Marvel Cinematic Universe, Hollywood has shaped not only entertainment preferences, but also people's values, dreams and perceptions of the world. Today, despite facing competition from Bollywood, India, Nollywood, Nigeria, or Korean cinema, Hollywood still holds the throne thanks to its financial strength, technology and global distribution network. And perhaps, just by the words, "Made in Hollywood," appearing, that film is already inherently irresistible. It can be said that Hollywood does not just make movies, Hollywood creates dreams. If Hollywood is a dream in images, American music is the heartbeat in sounds that has conquered the hearts of the world. From the improvised melodies of jazz, the burning electric guitar of rock to the powerful rap rhymes of hip-hop, America has shaped the flow of modern global music. The origin of American music bears the mark of cultural exchange. From European folk songs, African drums and rhythms, to Latin sounds, all blend into new musical genres. In the South, black slaves created blues, a sad but emotional music. It was from blues that jazz was born in the early 20th century in New Orleans, opening the era of shining American music. Jazz is not just music, but a declaration of creative freedom. With the ability to improvise endlessly, artists like Louis Armstrong or Duke Ellington brought jazz from local bars to big stages around the world. In the 1950s and 1960s, America exploded with rock and roll. Elvis Presley, the king of rock, and his legendary electric guitar captivated young people around the world, creating a cultural revolution. American music did not stop there. In the following decades, pop, R&B and soul continued to spread, with names like Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston and Madonna, turning them into timeless legends. In particular, at the end of the 20th century, hip-hop and rap from the poor Bronx of New York rose to become a global phenomenon. The beatbox melodies, free-flowing rhymes and messages reflecting urban life made hip-hop the voice of a rebellious young generation. And gradually, the whole world listened. Today, American music is a billion-dollar industry with global stars like Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Eminem, and Drake. Awards ceremonies like the Grammys are not only musical events, but also cultural stages where trends, fashion and social messages are transmitted across the planet. The impact of American music also lies in the way it shapes lifestyles, fashion, dance, and the way young people think around the world are all more or less influenced by American pop, rock or hip-hop, breakdancing, streetwear, and even street language have become global cultural icons. Of course, American music also causes a lot of controversy. Lyrics sometimes reflect violence, sex or lavish lifestyles, but it is this boldness that makes it always fresh, always challenging the limits and becoming the mainstream of world popular culture. Simply put, American music not only resonates from the stage, but also resonates in every corner of global life. What drives millions of people from all over the world to cross oceans, mountains, and even risk their lives to come to America? The answer is the American dream, a belief that everyone, regardless of background, can change their destiny with effort and determination. The concept of the American dream originated in the founding of the nation. The first immigrants left Europe not only to find new lands, but also to pursue religious freedom, business opportunities, and a life free from class constraints. From then on, the American dream became the spiritual foundation of the entire nation. Everyone has the right to pursue happiness. Success comes from work and perseverance, not predetermined by status or lineage. The 19th and 20th centuries witnessed a huge wave of immigration to America. Europeans fleeing famine, Asians seeking work on the railroads, Latin Americans hoping to escape poverty. All were welcomed by the Statue of Liberty, with the words engraved on its pedestal, "Give me you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled, yearning to breathe free," a promise of a land of hope. In fact, America has produced countless stories of rags to riches success. Andrew Carnegie, a poor Scottish immigrant, rose to become a steel magnate. Steve Jobs, the son of a Syrian immigrant, founded Apple and changed the world of technology. Oprah Winfrey, a black girl who used to live in poverty, became a media icon and billionaire. These stories are living proof of the power of the American dream. However, that dream is not always beautiful. Many people face discrimination, racism, the gap between rich and poor, and fierce competition. There have been generations of immigrants who did not achieve the dream as expected, but they themselves contributed to building the diverse and dynamic society of America today. In popular culture, the American dream is reflected in movies, music, and literature. From F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby to Hollywood movies telling stories of poverty to change their lives, all revolve around the aspiration to rise up. It is both a belief and a reminder of both the light and darkness of the path to success. Today, as the world changes, the American dream also takes on new meanings. It is not only about a big house or material possessions, but also the right to live freely, be creative, contribute and pursue passion. Despite many controversies, the American dream is still an immortal symbol, making America a promised land in the minds of millions of people. Simply put, the American dream is the soul of America, an invitation, a beacon of hope, of opportunity, of hope, and of change. If America is like a giant picture, then each immigrant community is a piece that creates that colorful picture. Without immigrants, there would not be a United States of America like today. Since the 17th century, when the first ships carrying Europeans set foot on the new land, waves of immigrants have begun the journey to turn America into a land of convergence. The British, French, Dutch, and Spanish brought with them languages, customs, and religions. Africans who were forced to become slaves left a deep mark on American music, cuisine, and culture. Then waves of Irish, Italian, German, Jewish, Chinese, Japanese, Mexican, and many other communities continued to contribute to shaping the American identity. The Statue of Liberty in New York was a welcome to millions of immigrants in the 19th and 20th centuries. They came with the hope of escaping poverty, finding religious freedom, or simply longing for a new beginning. Ellis Island, which once welcomed more than 12 million immigrants, is considered the gateway to America, and also the place where the concept of nation of immigrants is deeply rooted. This diversity has made America a special society. There, you can eat Italian pizza, Japanese sushi, Mexican tacos, Vietnamese pho, right on the same street. The Indian Diwali festival, the Asian Lunar New Year, the Jewish Hanukkah or the Latin American Carnival all contribute to the vibrant multicultural life. Not only in daily life, diversity also creates strength for America. In science, technology, art, sports, people of immigrant origin always leave a brilliant mark, from Sergey Brin, the founder of Google of Russian origin, to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Hollywood actor and former governor of California of Austrian origin. Even US presidents have immigrant blood, because their ancestors all came from different lands. However, the immigrant journey to America has not always been smooth. There have been periods of history tinged with discrimination, such as the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, or the heated debates over illegal immigration today. But above all, immigration remains a key driving force that keeps America growing and innovating. It is often said that America's strength lies not in its weapons or its economy, but in its ability to embrace and integrate. It is this multicolored heart that makes America a place where anyone, no matter where they come from, can find a part of their story. When it comes to American power, many people immediately think of military or economic power, but there is an equally important, soft weapon, the higher education system. From Harvard, MIT, Stanford to hundreds of other prestigious universities, the U.S. has become the dream destination of millions of students around the world. Harvard, the oldest university in the U.S., founded in 1636, has long been a symbol of intelligence and power. This is the place that has trained 8 U.S. presidents, dozens of billionaires and countless influential figures in politics, economics and science. The Harvard Library with millions of books is a huge, treasure trove of knowledge that few places in the world can compare to. If Harvard represents tradition, then MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is a symbol of innovation. MIT is the cradle of great works, from radar invention, computer technology, to artificial intelligence and space research. MIT graduates are not only engineers, but also entrepreneurs who create the world's leading technology corporations. Not only Harvard or MIT, the United States also owns a large, educational ecosystem. Schools such as Stanford, associated with Silicon Valley, Yale, Princeton, Columbia or California Institute of Technology, Caltech, are all among the top in the world. Many American universities are also associated with research centers, hospitals, and businesses, creating a close connection between academia and practice. The attraction of American education is also shown in the numbers. Each year, more than 1 million international students come to study. They come not only because of the reputation, but also because of the free and creative environment, where ideas are encouraged and discussed without limits. The United States creates conditions for students not only to study theory, but also to practice, research and participate in global projects. However, American education also has its downsides. Sky-high tuition fees, heavy student debt, and fierce competition keep many from achieving the American college dream. But despite the challenges, there is no denying that the American education system remains a magnet for global talent. Thanks to its intellectual prowess, the United States has not only produced outstanding leaders, scientists, and entrepreneurs, but has also maintained its leading position in the 21st century. Perhaps no moment has more vividly defined the image of the American superpower than July 20, 1969, when Neil Armstrong took his first step on the moon and said, "That's one small step for man, One giant leap for mankind. This event not only marked the pinnacle of science, but also a powerful testament to American ambition and technological power. NASA, the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, was established in 1958. In the context of the Cold War and the space race with the Soviet Union. In just over a decade, from Sputnik surprising the world to Apollo 11 landing on the moon, NASA has turned what seemed like science fiction into reality. The Apollo project mobilized more than 400,000 engineers, scientists, workers and a huge budget, turning it into the greatest scientific and technological cooperation project of the 20th century. Space is not only a glory, but also the foundation for a series of everyday applications. From telecommunications satellites, GPS, weather satellite images, to heat-resistant materials, water filters, zero-gravity medicine, all originate from space research. In other words, what NASA does not only serves the universe, but also returns to improve the quality of daily life. After Apollo, NASA continued to conquer the universe with the Space Shuttle program, the International Space Station, ISS, and missions to explore Mars, Saturn, and Pluto. The images sent back by Hubble, or the autonomous robots Curiosity and Perseverance rolling on Mars, opened up for humanity an unprecedentedly deep view of the universe. Today, NASA is no longer alone. They cooperate with SpaceX, Blue Origin and many private companies, creating the era of commercialization of space. The Artemis project is aiming to bring humans back to the moon and beyond to Mars, affirming America's ambition to continue to lead in space exploration. However, conquering space also poses many challenges, huge budgets, safety risks, and debates about the priority between investing in space and solving problems on Earth. But despite many debates, NASA remains a symbol of intelligence, aspiration, and the spirit of conquest. From stepping on the moon to the dream of laying the foundation on Mars, science and space have become the invisible wings that help America fly beyond all geographical borders. If you want to understand why nature is considered the second identity of Americans, look at the national park system that stretches from the icy Alaska to the fiery Arizona desert. Not only are they natural assets, they are also national pride, symbols of the desire for conservation and love of country. In 1872, the United States established the world's first national park, Yellowstone, with majestic waterfalls, hot springs and the magnificent Old Faithful geyser. Yellowstone opened the era of nationalizing nature, turning conservation into a policy rather than just a movement. After that, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, Everglades, Denali were born one after another, creating a system of more than 60 national parks and hundreds of nature reserves spread across the territory. Each park has its own identity. Grand Canyon with its giant red rock canyon like a mark of time, Yosemite with the vertical granite cliff El Capitan, challenging all climbers. The Everglades are a unique wetland ecosystem where alligators and jaguars coexist. In Alaska, Denali stands out with the highest mountain in North America, covered in snow all year round, while Hawaii volcanoes shows the living power of volcanoes. But U.S. national parks are not just for sightseeing. They are also living laboratories for scientists studying climate, ecology, and biodiversity conservation. Many animals that were once on the brink of extinction, such as gray wolves, bison, and falcons, have been restored thanks to strict conservation programs. For people, national parks are places to relax, explore, and find peace. Every year, tens of millions of domestic and foreign tourists come here to camp, hike, climb mountains, row boats, or simply admire the majestic sunrises and sunsets. The slogan, "America's Best Idea," is synonymous with the park system, affirming that nature conservation is one of America's most precious spiritual legacies to humanity. However, conservation is not without its challenges. Climate change, wildfires, pollution and pressure from mass tourism are threatening many fragile ecosystems. Governments and communities are constantly having to balance economic development and preserving nature for future generations. From Yellowstone to the Grand Canyon, from the Rockies to Alaska, America's national parks are not only majestic landscapes, but also reminders that nature is a common heritage of humanity. to be protected and cherished. In America, sports are not just games, but part of the national identity, a secular religion associated with the spirit of competition, entertainment, and community pride. Basketball, football, baseball, or hockey are not just sports, but billion-dollar industries that shape American popular culture. Basketball, with the NBA, National Basketball Association, is a global icon. From Michael Jordan, the timeless jumper, to Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, or Stephen Curry, the NBA not only creates legends, but also shapes lifestyles. Sneakers, hip-hop music, street fashion are all associated with the image of basketball stars. With attractive matches, huge media effects, the NBA has turned basketball into a common language, connecting young people around the world. American football is the king in the country. The NFL attracts hundreds of millions of viewers each season. And the Super Bowl, the final match, is considered the biggest festival of the whole country. Not only sports, the Super Bowl is also famous for its music performances, million-dollar advertisements, turning it into a popular cultural show with influence far beyond the stadium. Baseball, the sport once known as the national quintessence, is closely associated with American history and memory. From Babe Ruth to Jackie Robinson, the man who broke the racial barriers, baseball is not only a sport, but also a symbol of integration and the desire for equality. Although the international appeal of baseball is no longer as brilliant as basketball, in the US and Japan, Cuba, or Korea, it is still an enduring passion. In addition, ice hockey, tennis, golf, or swimming have also created world-famous American stars, from Tiger Woods, Serena Williams to Michael Phelps, the swimmer who won the most Olympic medals in history. The United States is the #1 sporting power at the Olympics, consistently leading the medal tally, reflecting the strength of its training system and its culture of competition. What is special about American sports is how closely they are linked to mass entertainment. Games are always accompanied by music, dance, fireworks, fashion, and media. The culture of tailgate parties, outdoor barbecues before football games, or the whole family glued to the TV during the Super Bowl have turned sports into the glue that binds communities. Of course, American sports are not without controversy. Violence in football, doping in athletics, or excessive commercialization. But above all, sports are still a place to affirm the American spirit, fierce competition, always aiming for the top, and turning every match into a festival. It can be said that American sports not only satisfy fans, but are also a stage for the US to display its soft power, both conquering domestic audiences and inspiring the whole world. If the military is the hard power of the United States, then media and popular culture are the soft power that helps America shape global thinking, tastes, and lifestyles. For more than a century, from Hollywood to Netflix, American media has reached beyond national borders, creating a profound influence that few countries can match. Hollywood, the heart of the world's film industry, not only produces blockbusters such as Avatar, Avengers, Titanic, or Jurassic Park, but also exports the American dream and value system. Images of heroes, stories of overcoming difficulties, or romantic love on the silver screen have touched the hearts of billions of viewers. With a professional production system, huge budgets, and advanced special effects technology, Hollywood is both an entertainment industry and an effective, soft propaganda machine. Not stopping at theaters, the United States is also a pioneer in revolutionizing media with Netflix and streaming platforms. Netflix has not only changed the way people watch movies, but also created a global trend where audiences can watch anytime, anywhere. From Stranger Things to The Crown, series labeled Made in USA have become cultural icons, shaping the tastes of millions of people. In addition, the US also owns media giants such as Disney, Warner Bros. Universal, and news systems such as CNN, The New York Times, or Fox News. These channels not only report news, but also contribute to shaping international public opinion. Sometimes, this spread is accompanied by controversy. Is the US media imposing an American view on the rest of the world? However, it cannot be denied that the soft power of the US media is what makes this country different. A Hollywood movie can make millions of people love America. A Netflix series can bring American style into every home. And a CNN report can influence how the world understands international events. Interestingly, American media doesn't just export products. It also absorbs influence in return. Netflix today funds Korean dramas like Squid Game and Spanish series like La Casa de Papel, and turns them into global phenomenons. But it is the power of American distribution and technology that makes these works so widespread. In short, American media is both an economic tool and a soft weapon. It makes the United States present not only in military and economic terms, but also in the imaginations, emotions, and entertainment habits of billions of people. If technology, economy and military make up the tangible strength of America, then literature and art are the soul reflecting the social upheavals, the desire for freedom and the unlimited creativity of this country. From classic works to modern art movements, American literature and art have left a deep mark on the treasure trove of human culture. In literature, the name Mark Twain is often considered the father of modern American literature. With The Adventures of Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn, he portrayed the life of the American South in a vivid, humorous but also critical way. Twain laid the foundation for the American literary style. Simple, close, but no less profound. After him, writers such as Ernest Hemingway, William Faulkner and John Steinbeck continued to explore themes of war, social injustice and human aspirations, making American literature an important voice of the 20th century. Hemingway with his icy writing style, Steinbeck with The Grapes of Wrath, or Toni Morrison, a black female Nobel Prize winner, all demonstrated the diverse and humane power of American literature. American visual art was also revolutionary. In the 20th century, the abstract movement with Jackson Pollock changed the definition of painting. Each splash of paint on his canvas was not just a painting, but a declaration of absolute creative freedom. Next, Andy Warhol, the king of pop art, turned everyday objects such as Campbell's soup cans or images of Marilyn Monroe into artistic symbols. Warhol proved that art could come from anywhere, and at the same time reflected American consumer society. Cinema, photography, and sculpture also extend this creative flow. American artists have always constantly questioned identity, freedom, and the role of art in life. Museums such as MoMA, New York, LACMA, Los Angeles, or Smithsonian, Washington, D.C., have become temples that preserve and spread that spirit. American literature and art are also a mirror of diversity. From works by immigrant communities, Latinx writers, artists of color, to feminist and LGBTQ+ art movements, all create a colorful picture. It is this diversity that makes American literature and art both personal and global. In the United States, few issues are as historic and as fiercely contested as gun ownership. The Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1791, states that the people shall have the right to keep and bear arms, ensuring that they can defend themselves and maintain a militia if need be. From a provision created in the context of the young nation's liberation from British rule. This right has become a symbol of freedom and the root of many tragedies in modern American society. Gun culture is inextricably linked to the American identity. For many people, especially in the South and West, guns are not only a means of self-defense but also a family tradition. Part of a way of life that is rooted in hunting, farming, and personal freedom. Gun shops, gun shows, and shooting clubs are ubiquitous, reflecting a culture in which guns are as familiar as cars or work tools. However, along with gun ownership comes the haunting statistics of gun violence. Tens of thousands of Americans die or are injured each year by guns, including many mass shootings that shock the public. Tragedies at schools, movie theaters, churches, etc. regularly make headlines, creating a never-ending debate. Should the right to bear arms remain or change? Organizations like the National Rifle Association, NRA, fiercely defend the Second Amendment, arguing that guns are not the main cause, but rather human misuse. They emphasize that guns provide safety, help people defend themselves against crime, and are a symbol of resistance to government abuse. Meanwhile, gun control advocates argue that easy access to guns is a major danger. Many states have laws that allow the purchase of guns without strict background checks. increasing the risk of violence. Every time a tragedy strikes, calls for tighter gun laws rise. But they are often thwarted by lobbying power and political divisions. Some states impose strict restrictions, while others allow open carry of guns in public. This diversity complicates the issue of guns, reflecting the deep polarization of American society. It is worth noting that America's gun culture also extends beyond its borders through movies and video games. Images of Western cowboys with pistols, or Hollywood action figures with heavy rifles, have reinforced the image of America with guns. This makes the gun issue both real and symbolic in the world's perception of the United States. Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, the United States has been more than just a nation. It has been a global force shaping the international order. The phrase, world policeman, has often been used to describe the United States, as it has engaged in countless conflicts, agreements, and military interventions around the planet. American foreign policy reflects both its ambition for power and its belief that the United States has a special mission to protect freedom and democracy. After World War II, the United States emerged as the leading superpower, leading the reconstruction of Europe through the Marshall Plan and playing a key role in the creation of the United Nations, NATO, and many other international organizations. The Cold War turned the United States into a counterweight to the Soviet Union, and since then, a series of military interventions, from Korea to Vietnam to Afghanistan, have been motivated by the desire to contain the spread of communism. With its superior military power, the U.S. is always ready to deploy its forces anywhere. U.S. military bases are spread across 5 continents, from Europe, the Middle East to Asia Pacific, forming the largest military network in the world. This presence not only serves national security interests, but also clearly demonstrates the role of global police, where the U.S. both protects allies and maintains influence. In addition to military, U.S. foreign policy also relies on economic and diplomatic strength. The U.S. is a key member of trade agreements, and regularly imposes economic sanctions to put pressure on countries considered threats to global security. These measures show that the U.S. not only uses force, but also takes advantage of economic power to achieve political goals. However, the role of world police also makes the U.S. face many criticisms. Many countries believe that Washington interferes too deeply in their internal affairs, causing chaos rather than stability. Long wars like Iraq and Afghanistan have sparked debate about the cost, both in terms of soldiers' lives and the economy. Even within the U.S., there is a wave of opposition, arguing that the country should focus on domestic issues instead of shouldering global responsibilities. However, when there is an international crisis, the world's eyes are often on Washington. From dealing with climate change, global pandemics, to strategic competition with China and Russia, the U.S. is still expected to play a leading role. This reflects the special position of the U.S., despite criticism and doubt. The U.S. is still the country with the greatest influence in deciding the direction of the world order. When mentioning the United States, the 3 names that immediately come to mind for many people are New York, Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles. These 3 cities not only represent political, economic and cultural power, but are also global icons, places that the whole world wants to visit at least once. New York, the city that never sleeps, is considered the financial and cultural capital of the world. On Manhattan Island, towering skyscrapers are the headquarters of the United Nations, Wall Street, and a series of global corporations. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France, is an immortal symbol of the American dream, welcoming millions of immigrants over the past century. Times Square with its bright neon lights, Broadway with its legendary musicals, or the lush green Central Park in the heart of the city, all create a New York that is both modern, diverse and full of energy. If New York is the economic center, then Washington, D.C. is the political heart of the United States. This is where the White House, the symbol of the supreme power of the U.S. president, is located, along with the Capitol, where Congress makes laws, and the Supreme Court, the pillar of the national judiciary. On the National Mall, a series of memorials and museums tell the story of American history. From the Lincoln Memorial to the Smithsonian Museum, the atmosphere in Washington, D.C. is very different from New York: solemn, orderly, full of political and historical colors. Meanwhile, Los Angeles is the entertainment capital of the world. This city is home to Hollywood, the global film empire, where blockbusters are produced and top stars shine. The Hollywood Walk of Fame bears the names of thousands of artists. And the giant, Hollywood, sign on the hill has become an unmistakable symbol. Los Angeles is also a creative center with the music industry, fashion, street art, and even sports with the legendary Lakers basketball team. In addition, the beaches of Santa Monica, Malibu or Venice Beach bring a liberal atmosphere, making this city a place of dreams and freedom. 3 cities, 3 shades, but all are the representative faces of America on the world map. New York is vibrant and global. Washington, D.C. is powerful and historical. Los Angeles is creative and entertaining, altogether creating a comprehensive picture of the power and appeal of America. Entering the 21st century, the United States continues to maintain its leading superpower status, but at the same time faces unprecedented challenges. After a period of post-Cold War hegemony, the United States now has to deal with a more multipolar world, where rivals such as China and Russia have emerged strongly, challenging the global leadership role that Washington once held. One of the biggest challenges is the economy. Although the United States is still the world's #1 economy, with a GDP far exceeding many countries, pressure from China, the second largest economy, is increasingly evident. Competition in technology, trade and supply chains has become the focus, especially in strategic areas such as artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and clean energy. The United States is forced to maintain its innovative edge while restructuring its industry to avoid falling behind in the new era. In domestic politics, partisan polarization is increasingly fierce. From contentious elections, racial protests, to issues related to abortion rights, immigration, and guns, all show deep divisions within American society. This raises questions about the ability to maintain unity, which is the foundation for the United States to continue to play a global leadership role. Security issues are no less complicated, from terrorism after 9/11, to the long wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The U.S. has spent trillions of dollars and lost thousands of soldiers. Although the U.S. military is still the strongest in the world, the public is increasingly asking, is playing the role of global policeman still appropriate? Or should the U.S. focus on domestic challenges? In addition, climate change and global pandemics are also big issues. The U.S. was criticized for withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement under Trump, but has returned under Biden. The future of this superpower depends in no small part on how it balances economic development with its global responsibility to protect the planet. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown the U.S.'s vulnerability to crises, but it has also demonstrated its superior capacity for medical research and vaccine production. One bright spot for the U.S. in the 21st century remains its ability to innovate. From Silicon Valley with its giant technology corporations, to Hollywood with its entertainment industry, or NASA with its space exploration projects, the U.S. remains the world's center of innovation. This is the advantage that helps this country maintain its influence. Despite the challenges that surround it, America's 21st century has been a journey that is both glorious and arduous, a superpower trying to protect its leading position. In a rapidly changing and competitive world, the United States is a story that never ends. A journey that has spanned more than 2 centuries, filled with ups and downs, triumphs and challenges. From 13 small colonies on the Atlantic coast, America has risen to become a global power, where economics, military, science, culture and democratic values combine to create a strength that transcends time. But what makes America special is not just its material strength, but also its ability to innovate, adapt and reinvent itself at every stage of its history. Between its bustling cities, majestic parks, cutting-edge technology labs and brightly lit movie theaters, America represents a vibrant and multifaceted nation. From the American dream, a symbol of aspiration and opportunity, to gun culture or freedom of speech, every element creates a rich, sometimes contradictory but always inspiring picture. It is a place where hundreds of millions of dreams, millions of personal stories, and social challenges converge that humanity can learn from. In the 21st century, America faces unprecedented challenges, global competition, climate change, internal divisions, violence, and health crises. But at the same time, this country still possesses unique advantages: creative power, technological innovation, leading education and research systems, and strong cultural influence. It is the combination of ambition and adaptability that helps America maintain its superpower status. Despite all international storms, what is special is that American power is not only demonstrated by the military or GDP. It also lies in the ability to conquer people's hearts through cinema, music, sports, literature, and other cultural symbols. From Broadway to Hollywood, from Silicon Valley to NASA, America inspires not only its own citizens but the world, reminding us that true power sometimes lies in spirit, ambition, and the ability to innovate. America's journey continues, with new steps on the moon, unprecedented technological innovations, policies that shape the global future, and stories of people, dreams, ambitions, and challenges. Though imperfect, America's complexity, diversity, and relentless progress have created a unique image of a superpower, both real and symbolic, that the world looks on with admiration and sometimes debate.